3rd, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I will lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's all remain standing for a moment of silence for Jim Damascus, who was the mayor of previous mayor of Flower Hill, who passed away last week. Alrighty, thank you. Before we start, I just wanted to read a little about Jim Damascus, where I got some information from Norm Glavis. Former Mayor Damascus passed away on December 23rd. He first served as a trustee from 96 through 98, and then was appointed mayor in 98. He served as mayor through 2005. As mayor in 2000, he presided over the total overall review and codification of our village code, which we believe was not revised in its entirety since 1936. When Jim was mayor, St. Francis did that very large major addition to the hospital. And Jim was very wise in the way they changed the code having to deal with permit fees, where we were able to bring in a very large amount of money, which was subsequently used for what we're sitting in right here, right now. The existing meeting room was updated, expanded, the new technology, new furnishings. We added the ADA accessibility lift outside, and Rich's garage was expanded from a very small garage to a very nice sized garage to keep all our maintenance vehicles out of the cold and snow. So thank you, Jim Damascus, for everything you did in serving the village. Let's start off first with public comment. Anybody have anything? Questions? Comments?
I have a question. I guess, should I stand up or should I?
Whatever you choose to do.
Okay, so I just have a question. Well, I'll just tell you, I'll try to make it
Mr.
brief.
Ryan, just introduce yourself.
Yes,
to the board, 'cause
so,
I know who you are, but I don't know if they.
My name is Harry Einbender. I live at 98 Cardinal. I moved here about 2009. Been very happy living here, other than a horrible cesspool issue that I've had since I've purchased the home. When we purchased, I asked my neighbors and I said, how often are you pumping out? Once a year. And I said, listen, that's not right. I've lived in homes. I grew up out east. We had a cesspool. We never pumped it out. So never pumped it out. I mean, there are times, but not once a year. Okay. So with that said, I contracted a company. They put in a cesspool and it failed miserably. So they told me they hit water and they were unable to do the cesspool. Going back and forth with former Mayor Harrington, who throughout this process was really trying to help get through this. And I really felt that the town was trying to help me and get my back. And so I contracted another person who was attempting to put an interlocking ring. So for areas where the water table is high, they actually lock the rings together. So a very expensive system, it failed. They were unable to stay ahead of the waters. But what they did was, when they did it, they said, listen, there's tons of water coming from the side. So they took the backhoe and followed the water and found a very large pipe that I never put in there. That is a drainage pipe that at some point was put in there by Nassau County, Flower Hill, whatever the powers that be. It is a town pipe, and I'm just going to use the word town, that goes through an easement on my property, on the left side of my property. They found the pipe. I had difficulty, and I just want to make it quick. I was having a lot of difficulty with the town moving forward. Maybe you don't understand. This whole process was probably about 5 or 6 years of not having a lawn. 5 or 6 years. Doing my lawn 3 or 4 times, doing my sprinkles 3 or 4 times, okay, putting sodding and then having to dig it up to try to fix it. So then I said to myself, listen, we're not getting anywhere. So I said, I need to take it upon myself to do it. I'm going to fix it. So I hired a company. They dug down, they found the pipe, They actually went 180 feet in the pipe. I had this all documentation, and the pipe was crushed. So they were unable to find out the source of it. They tried to use smoke. They were gonna use a camera first, but then they realized smoke is better. They tried to smoke it out. They couldn't find where the pipe would go. So with that said, they capped it. Then I paid for a whole system, a shower. I had to, because of the fact that the pipe couldn't be fixed and the water issue on my property addressed, I had to pay for a shallow water system that is probably one of the best in the town now, because it removes 80% of the nitrogen. The water that leaves this in Europe, they can use this to irrigate properties. Can't do this in this country, but you can do it in Europe. So I had this an enormous system. I had to go underneath my driveway, the whole left side of my property, leaching fields and everything. I paid for every single thing myself. And former Mayor Harrington said to me, but we, through negotiations, at some point he offered to give me money, and basically just to say, let bygones be bygones, show that not asking to pay for my septic system, but for the actual work that was done to cap the pipe, find the pipe, all these things. And then now, we have a new mayor, and now I've been told that at first they weren't gonna give me the money. I have documentation of it. They weren't gonna give me the money. Then they offered me less of it. And so my attorney sent a letter to the town requesting that, the full payment that you guys said, that you would pay to make this go away. And then I was gonna let bygones be bygones. It's close to $200,000 spent in fixing this thing and addressing this whole issue. And I'm at a point now where we said, my attorney said that we gave you until December 31st to basically make whole on the letters and the promises that you have made. We're also gonna have to go through litigation. And I'll be honest with you, because of the heartache and the stress, you have to remember that. Just imagine for 6 years straight, leaving your house and smelling SHIT every day. Every day. It was dumping out. I had pictures and videos of it flowing down my lawn into the street. Raw sewer for 6 years. Every day I woke up and it was just horrible, the smell and what it did for me. It was just really horrible. And it was just, I'll be honest with you, really hurtful, the fact that I said, I'll do it myself. I thought we had worked it out with former Mayor Harrington, and it was really just a stab in the back, just as somebody to say all of a sudden, no, we're not giving you anything, or we'll give you a little bit. It's just like, when you have an agreement, we should honor it. And I plan on being here for many years to come, and I want to be a good member of the community. I just feel that I've been wronged so much, and I just want it to go away, because the problem here is that it's going to get bad. I mean, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? If it has to go down the road, fiscally, it wouldn't be responsible for you to go down that road because it's gonna cost you more money. I just want this in my rearview mirror. And really what I'm asking for is, I had to fix the pipe. I had to go down, I had to do all that and fix town infrastructure in order to make my property, my septic system on my property feasible. So all I'm asking you is just to honor, if you need to look at it, I don't want to, I'm not an argumentative guy, I just want a means to an end. And I like the neighborhood, thankfully my neighbors are the best. I get along very well with all my neighbors, everybody, they've been lovely throughout this whole process. But they're not happy as well, because they have paid a lot of money over the years to address the water issues. The people to the left of me, trench drains, they're still having water issues, and they basically just water's pumping out of their thing all the time. They're fine with it, they fixed it. The neighbors to the right of me, they're having, they've addressed it. I finally fixed it, and I have a working septic system. So like I said, I don't want this to go on too much further, but I'm hoping that as a resident of this town, we could somehow find a means to an end and put this in our rearview mirror. Because the alternative is it's not gonna be nice. And I just don't want it to go down that road. So we've already had an agreement. In the past, I've had wonderful communications with former Mayor Harrington. Mayor Rosemount, I voted for you. It was unopposed, but I felt to myself, you know what? The nicest thing is to move forward and to show interest in the community and not to have a bad situation. So I voted for you. All right, so please, as a resident of the town, please do right so we can move past this. Thank you. Do you guys have any questions? I guess.
Jeff.
No, only because, and please don't say what I'm about to say is rude, is because there's legal issues involved.
Yes.
The board has heard your comments, and I thought we'd leave it at that. I know you have counsel, and I can certainly follow up with him.
That would be
As
great.
may be, but otherwise, I think my advice to the board would be to leave it as a legal issue, to not respond.
Totally understand. But like I said, I know that if you guys want this to go and me to be a happy resident and to really, in my opinion, do what's right, I'm asking you to do what you had said you would do before, and we can move on with this. I fixed it. I have, like I said, a wonderful system that, if anybody ever wants to find out about it, I know a lot about it now. But it's probably the cleanest system in Flower Hill. So it's finally, I'm happy and I'm proud when I leave my house that I have a lawn for the first time in 6 years. I know is going to be there. I do have four manhole covers, but it's better than the alternative. Because now I can finally take a shower that I'm not trying to make it quickly, because I know that the longer I take a shower, it's going to be on my front lawn within, by the time I go to work. So it's nice to finally come home, and have a lawn. And, fortunately, I was able to put it in right before the winter. I don't want to keep you guys too long, but if you guys can please work it out, and maybe somehow somebody can at least tell me at what point, we can move forward or who to speak to.
All righty. Well, thank you for your comments.
I'm a record, and I was planning commissioner of the town for a while, and a number of others. Have you looked in the county records
Yes.
to find out who owned the pipe?
The answer was that my understanding was that at one point, the easement and all the infrastructure was turned over to Flower Hill. So we actually had Nassau County come down, and Nassau County is saying that Nassau County is saying that the pipe belongs to Flower Hill. We did, and I've had the comptroller of New York involved. I've gone up the pipeline as far as I can go to try to address this and figure out. I have structural maps that, that they're saying, well, those were planned but never, never put into fruition. But I'm like, but you see the plan, you see that, that's the pipe that's on my property.
Not the town, not the town.
Rhoda,
County.
Yeah, Rhoda.
Rhoda, if you want to continue this discussion, can you take it outside on the
Yes,
side?
okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
We're good.
that'd be much
Thank you.
appreciated, sorry.
Yeah.
Because we spent a lot of time doing exact things you're talking about, Rhoda, and I'm sure Dr. Einbetter can fill you in, and,
Totally fine.
we can also talk outside
Thank
as
you.
well. Thank you, Rhoda.
All righty, Ronnie, you want to start off with the rest of the meeting?
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the December 5th regular meeting.
I make a motion.
I'll second it.
I'm sorry, second by the mayor,
Yeah, first.
Mary Jo, and second by the
Yes.
mayor. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstained? Next is a motion to approve claims. Does anybody have any questions on the claims?
As always, I reviewed each and every one, and I'm now actually signing off on each claim individually, other than just reviewing them.
So the only question I had, the Trius, the Timco service, was that the issue with the truck that got resolved, or?
That was a shoot.
Okay.
I just wanted to know, I know we spoke last month about claims being paid prior to the meeting. There are two claims on this bill that don't qualify. However, it's Home Depot and Visa, because of our billing cycle. We're in the process of trying to get that billing cycle changed, so we'll be able to do that. It is in the works.
Excellent.
So motion to
Oh,
approve,
I'll make the motion.
is there a second?
A second.
Any, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any no's or abstentions? Thank you. Next is, I mistakenly put, Mark on the architecture review committee, there was no hearing. Our village engineer cannot be with us tonight, the only outstanding issues right now are, a bond redemption for the drainage work on Birchdale and the underground, survey for Middle Neck Road. Next, Mr. Falcone, do you have anything to report?
Yes, you do.
Oh, just,
The work on
country club,
and Ferndale.
Fernwood, yeah.
Fernwood, thank you.
Yeah. So they finished the punch list pretty much that we needed over there on Fernwood. The country club, that's obviously from the work that we had with, from last year's problem that we had with American pavement. So, we had McGowan go and fix that, and that's all good now. I guess we have to discuss, forward with the payment and all that.
Right, no, thank you for getting the work done on Fernwood, because the residents reported that there's no more ponding. So they aren't happy that the drainage gully is back, but it's the only way to
That's the only way.
remediate the ponding in the streets.
Streets.
Yep. No, they were appreciative that we tried at least to get rid of it, so thank you for that attempt.
So what happens next is that McGowan will produce a final bill, and it'll be reviewed by our engineer, and once he approves it, we will present it for payment.
Yeah, he told me this today that he was just checking everything and he should have that soon in the next couple of days.
Okay, the other thing I wanted to say is that Rich and I are applying for a safety grant that is offered by our workers' compensation safety group. And every year they offer a $5,000 grant for safety equipment. We did, 2 years ago, we were able to get the grant for changing over a lot of the street lights to more energy efficient lights. And this year, we're buying equipment for the lights and safety equipment for the backhoe.
Yeah.
And we're going to apply for that, and hopefully we will be reimbursed.
Oh, and I'd like to thank Rich for coming in last Saturday when we had all that frozen stuff. He came in Saturday early, if you guys might have seen him. I don't know who was awake that time, but he was out with the salt spreader, hitting a couple of parts in our village that kind of iced up with that quick frozen situation we had. So thank you, Rich, for coming in. Appreciate it.
Okay, next is that time of the year to pass a resolution announcing our polling place. So pursuant to Article 15 of Section 15-104 of the New York State Election Law, the board is required to adopt a resolution setting forth the following information about the general election 60 days prior to that election. The village election will be held Tuesday, March 15th. The polling hours will be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The polling place will be here at Village Hall.
Ronnie,
That's it.
you got the date wrong.
This is not right.
It's March 21st.
And it's the year wrong too.
But other than that, it's right.
Mine is right. I have the right date.
Well, it doesn't on ours.
Not on the
Well,
not
I
on,
told you it wasn't right.
yeah, not on the whereas.
I said, don't look at it, it's not right, just listen to what I'm saying. So we do have to offer that resolution
So for clarity's sake, it's March 21st,
of
2023.
the information that I read.
It's just here. Here it's right. Correct.
Tuesday, March 21st, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Village Hall.
I will make the resolution.
I'll second it.
Is that Mr. Harrington?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next, we received the Roswell fire contract for this year, and I wanted to report that it did go up considerably.
6%. That's what I
Well, yeah,
reported
it's
last month.
up $68,990 over last year. We never signed the contract last year because of the huge discrepancy in the increase.
Right.
So I don't know how you guys feel about signing this contract. It's
How-
not that we're not paying, because we are paying the fire service.
What's the total now yearly for Rosalind?
The total for this year is $375,716.
They had a very sizable increase. Port had what, 2% and change? It was under 3.
Yeah, but Port had last year, I think, a bigger one, so I think it's probably, yeah, but that's
No,
not 6%.
They originally wanted 7.
Six is
I went to the
that's a
meetings.
lot.
I told them it was ridiculous. They lowered it to 6, but I think we should talk to Jeff about an executive session about signing the contract or not.
Yeah.
Because there is some issues that we had last year with the,
That were not resolved.
yeah, which is why we didn't sign the contract last year. So I'm not sure if we'd want to sign it again this year because of the allocation that was done to this village that I think was not exactly fair.
And they'd be doing the same allocation this year?
Correct. So they never addressed
Yeah.
last year's issue.
Gotcha.
So, and I think Jeff was impossible. Well, you know what?
Let's-
It's a legal issue. I don't want to talk about
I reached
it.
out to Rosalind to see how they were handling it.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that in executive
Okay.
session then.
Next would be our attorney's report.
Sure, so there was no Board of Zoning Appeals meeting last month, so that report is very brief. Landmarks Commission did meet. There were 2 matters that were held over from the prior session. One dealt with Elderfield's Preserve. There were representatives from the county there who produced a deed that has a series of restrictions already placed on the property. They suggested that the commission should have the opportunity to review the deed which was produced at that evening. They were also asking for the possibility of maybe meeting with committee members either at the site or otherwise to discuss their plans for the future. The other property involving the Eastman Carriage House had been continued, and I think through a miscommunication, the homeowners thought that the meeting was starting later than it actually did, so they did not appear. We've since received some correspondence from them, but in fairness to them, that matter was adjourned over to the next meeting of the commission, as was Elderfield's, to allow the committee the opportunity to review the deed. And I can forward that to all the trustees for your review as well. And the next meeting is January 18th at 5:30. And that's my report.
I'd like to thank the Landmark Commission for their service at last month's meeting. It was a fun meeting.
Okay, Mayor.
All right, let's see. I have a couple of things here. So we did the pop-up vaccine. We did another vaccine pop-up last month on December 12th through our partnership with St. Francis Hospital. 25 COVID booster and flu shots were administered. So thank you, St. Francis, and thank you, Plan Dome Manor, for originally setting this up. I attended 2 conferences, one the cybersecurity conference held by Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly, where we had guest speakers from the FBI and other experts about what we can do as government to protect our assets from cybersecurity attacks. Also attended a webinar from NICOM the week after that about similar but some different things. So there's some good lessons learned, which we're going to apply to our village infrastructure. And then lastly, I approved our participation in Nassau County's Shared Services Plan, which hopefully will save the village a couple of dollars here and there when we do some joint services purchasing. But we'll see how that works out.
I just want to point out that we are receiving a little over $7,000 from the County Shared Service Commission for our participation in the county dental plan.
So there you go. We
There you
already
go.
made
We
$7,000.
already made money.
So thank you, Nassau County, for running this wonderful shared services plan. That's all I have to report. It was a short month. Any trustees report? Claire?
Nope.
We're still running the food drive though, right?
Food drive runs every month.
Okay.
Always happy to take any donations to supplement the food pantry, but no significant updates beyond that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's go to old business. So I gave you guys, okay. I gave you guys, emailed you before the meeting last week, two different, call them one sheeters on, even though one was two sheets, on two software upgrades that we needed to seriously look at. And the first one let's look at is it's the first one on your little handouts I made for you, is upgrading or actually replacing our municipal finance management software system. So we've been talking about this kind of for a while. It's still what we're using now is server-based. The server literally is on its last legs. Our IT company has done lots of work on trying to virtualize it, on trying to resurrect the machine. We need to start moving forward. So I laid out what the costs would be to go to a different organization, which is Edmunds GovTech. I had a demo, Ronnie had a demo, Suzanne had a demo. Suzanne, you like the system?
You know, it seems very, very, very easy to use. It seems like it's got a lot to offer us as a, as a group. I would hope that when you actually get the software, it works as well as, they sell it.
Right.
But we did go see it in use in Sands Point, and they were very happy with it, so.
How long have they had it for?
3 years, I
3 to
think.
4 years.
Yeah. And without disclosing trade secrets, they gave us a list of other municipalities and they asked that to be on the QT. So there's some really decent sized municipalities as well as like water districts and such that use this same software. You might say to yourself, okay, well, why can't we keep with the same system? Springbrook does not have a virtual system. It's server-based only. So it would probably be easier for Suzanne and everyone else if we just migrated. They don't have a migration path with their product. They haven't virtualized their product yet. So that's not a good thing. So that's kind of what forces our hand to go somewhere else. What I like about, even though this new system will cost more than our old system, we're going to save a lot. We don't have to pay $15,000 for a new server. We don't have to pay annually for server maintenance. So that helps balance out the additional cost of going to GovTech. What I really like about this from a budgeting perspective, it has dashboards, it has better reports, it has read-only access. So if I or anybody else on the budget committee wants to start looking at finance stuff, it's very easy to get to. Our auditors and our accountants don't have to keep on asking Suzanne to print up reports and just, it'll speed up their time. And I think if they have access to more data, they'll do a better job doing their job. Instead of waiting for data and looking at reports, they can dive in and get whatever reports they want and see whatever data works well. And again, these dashboards are great when it comes to the whole budgeting process. I think we will do a better job budgeting, and I also think it'll help us keep our fingers on the pulse of our budget spending to date, both revenue and for expenses. Because right now, every time we need a report from Suzanne, she's actually manually running reports. There's no canned reports in her system. She's going in and changing all the numbers and this, and every time the report comes out the same way because there's a couple of clicks to click and clicks not to click. So the system we have now, though it works, it's kind of a dinosaur. So I think this is something we need to approve right away, because how long is it going to take to integrate this system? 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
So my fear is we've got the server that's already beyond its useful life, which is why we're migrating our building department software off of it and every other system we have on it. So I think we should vote to approve this. But of course, before I make that motion, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I do, so just look, so the 14.
Don't look at this one instead.
Oh.
It's the other hand that I left on your desk.
This one?
No.
That one over
Maybe this one over.
That's
There you
it,
go.
yeah.
Much easier to read than that one. So I apologize. Not too bad.
So the 14,172 is what it would be if we kept what we have?
Correct.
plus a $15,000 server.
Right. So just to an apple-to-apple comparison, right now it's 14.1
Plus
compared to.
15, so 29?
Well, no. The server is a one-time piece of hardware, so I've got to buy a new computer.
Either way.
So that's not going to be an annual cost.
Okay.
The annual cost is that server maintenance line of $1,300. So the real comparison is the 14.1 compared to 23.9 of getting the GovTech system.
And what's the 36,750
Right. One of those conversions.
in the next page?
Yeah, the next page, 36.
Yeah.
That is the implementation costs to get the system up and running. So that's a one-time cost.
A one-time cost of,
So 36 plus 23,
23 is our annual, what we're going to pay every year for the service.
and now we pay 14.
Correct.
So,
But to get this new system up and running is going to cost us $36,000
Right, so-
in implementation and data transport.
The migration?
so it's
Migration.
approximately $10,000 a year more for the,
Correct,
just to run it,
correct.
right? And then it's,
plus an initial outlay of 36 plus
36.
15.
Correct. I'm sorry, it's on the second page,
51.
it's the way it printed.
That's 51,000 initial.
But not
outlay.
annually, but that would just be this
no,
year.
it's 23 annually.
Correct.
Right, so, okay.
Well, we'd have to replace the server anyway.
But we would have to replace the server.
The server has
The
to be
server
replaced.
shot, the server shot, so
Yes.
the 15 is a moot, because we gotta do it anyway.
So
And
then
then-
would it be 15 plus 23 plus 36?
No, the 15 is if we stayed where we are today and kept the $14,000 system running forever. We could stay on the same software, but then we wouldn't be virtualized. We'd be using it based on a server here in the closet.
And then we'd have.
Oh, so this is cloud-based,
The new system is cloud.
so we don't need the $15,000.
Affirmative, and I'm sorry that I didn't explain.
That's a
So the
month,
real-
that was,
That's
that's
a big
real my
difference, so
question.
then.
Maybe a
sorry.
better comparison is the 36,750, which is a one-time cost to convert, right? Against 15,000 for a
That
new
would be
server.
a fair
It
comparison.
would be
Yeah.
closer to-
Yeah.
And then the 23.9 versus the 14.1 as an annual cost.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
So what we're really talking about is there's, in both cases, one-time cost and ongoing cost upcharges to go to a virtual system.
The one thing
Yep.
I'd point out to that though, that 15,000 server replacement, in about 5 years, we're gonna have to replace the server
Yeah.
again. So that 15,000 is probably.
I
a
believe the quote
reoccurring-
was closer to
Is that
18,000.
Right, so you could, yeah, you could, right, you could annualize the 15,000 and add that to the.
Well, if you wanted to,
14.
then yes, you could bump it up by
Got it.
3,000 a year, but I don't like to do
Right. No,
hardware
no,
versus virtual. It's correct, but
It's a big decision. in
it
terms of-
helps lessen the blow, but when I'd like to do my math, I don't like to add that in.
No, it's not an easy, I mean, it's kind of like, well, this is, all things being equal, we would say, yeah, this is the direction we should be going.
Well, we did make a commitment to virtualize everything anyway, and this was the last piece of the puzzle, because the
I've
first,
never heard virtualize so many times in one evening. You've introduced me to a new world, a new word.
Well, it's not really a word, but if we say it enough, it might become one.
But as Deputy Mayor Harrison pointed out in
It's
his
corporate
email,
speak.
there's probably more security to the cloud-based system, in terms of
Yeah, I
backups.
sent an email beforehand.
Yeah,
Actually, my phone books, I was without email for a while, but yeah, I think it also, moving the stuff to the cloud and not having our own server after seeing what happened in Suffolk County, we're probably better off having somebody else
Yeah.
handling all that stuff for us. And they're probably updating their stuff every 6 months, which we're gonna update it every time we get a new server. But Mary Jo, it seems, I think you might
So-
have something else.
Is this the one system that we have to choose? I'm assuming you've done your due diligence, like, a lot of times, when you have maybe it's not the same thing. You road work, you have to go to 3 companies, you get bids and whatnot. Is this the only company that does this? And so has this been vetted and you're saying this is the best, everybody else uses them, they're most cost effective?
Are they gonna stay contract?
well, okay.
Like, how,
so
I don't have the
our current-
background
Our
of,
current company does offer a cloud-based solution that is about $23,000 more annually. Then.
so theirs is like $45,000?
There's $71,000 for the conversion, including the first year. Then their annual cost, right, is something like closer to 50, and each year. There's another company out there called Harris. They're in the process of being sold. They're not soliciting any new customers, and that's basically it. There are software financial software for much smaller entities. Most of the local governments, like Landau Manor, use QuickBooks for Government. We can't. It's not,
QuickBooks would not work.
It doesn't work for
We're
us.
too big.
this is really fits in our niche in terms of our size. We don't need something like the town of North Hempstead uses. It's like a little too much. This has a lot of recommendations from a lot of local villages who are similar in size to ours. And,
But they're not on state.
Sands Point has been so happy with their conversion over the last few years. I was just blown away by their
But
reports and everything.
they're
to
not
do
on,
with it.
they're not on state contract.
No, it is not, there's no state, KVS is the state contract, and that's not cloud-based, it's the server-based software. It is a professional service, so there is really no requirement that would go out to bid. Even if there wasn't such a requirement, there's not enough players in the field to get any kind of, comparative.
Well, you're never gonna get a comparable bid structure.
Right, I
because
tried to get
these-
Harris to
you
even just
can't.
give me
These
price
kind of
comparison
companies-
services. and they
Yeah,
give
you
me
all
can't.
have
price.
their own proprietary.
Yeah,
products.
it's impossible, we know that we're going through this ourselves right
So
now.
have we worked out like what the cost and benefits may be? I mean, I think you mentioned maybe there are additional auditing that would maybe help us. I just did, I'm just trying to figure out if there's things that we can say that, well, with this system, we can do a better job of managing money, we can do a better job of catching errors, we can do a better job of saving people's time, focusing on other things rather than printing reports.
So that's a yes, but I can't put a dollar value to that.
But we can also say that because it's cloud-based, it prevents a system-wide failure if the server goes down, or
Right,
a
it's a
power
big
outage,
insurance
anything
policy.
like that.
It
And
will
also,
help us
it's
with
less
budgeting,
likely to
obviously.
be it's less hackable than a
And-
physical server.
And the big thing is if Village Hall has to close again for whatever reason, we
Right.
have another pandemic, we have a flood.
Right.
People can work remotely.
Right, I think
Suzanne
those
couldn't
are-
do her work easily remotely with the server here.
Yeah, I think that's enough justification.
And I really don't want to be in the hardware business.
Yeah, no,
We-
no one,
we
no
don't-
one does
We don't want
anymore.
to be, we don't want any server.
My practice is changing over. Yeah, no one wants to be anymore like.
What was it, 2 months ago, we had that major hiccup with the system?
Yeah.
We almost thought the
shut down.
system was gone.
Yeah, it'll
We
shut
we had,
down.
we got some serious CPR and it came back.
What's the lead time on implementing this?
That's right, we just said about 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months.
So it is pretty.
Well, they have to import all the data, and then customize the system for us.
So when you're limping along with a server now, the longer we wait.
Correct. That's why I'd like to.
The more
move this
painful
quickly.
the kids.
Yeah,
And then
the
you're
rush
gonna
is
have-
gonna
Our
be-
IT
and then-
company kind of like.
Gary, you're gonna, for a month or two, you're gonna have parallel systems. You're gonna use them both until everyone is
Right.
feeling that the new system does what we need it to do. It's not gonna be a hard cutover. So that's why I'd like to approve this sooner than later, which would be tonight.
Does any of the money from, that the governor gave out last year cover this?
That'd be the president. But yes, the ARPA funds, we could use the ARPA funds for this.
Yes, that's
ARPA?
what it
Yes.
is.
It's a fixed cost.
The
Not the
free
annual
money
cost,
that she
no.
gave out.
It's a perfect fit.
So we can use that.
Yeah, just for fix.
Correct. This is an eligible expense.
Okay.
It's considered capital.
So-
Yeah.
Equipment was the.
So then we just need-
annual.
But not the annual, but the one time, the implementation operation lessens the.
Correct. It's just additional, it's gonna be the additional annual.
That's our
Operation
money, not our.
That's our concern.
We're not getting an assessment, we're getting, right, that makes me
That's
feel.
probably a good insurance policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should vote on.
Make a motion to approve.
Please.
Go ahead.
You can make the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, Edmunds GovTech for our municipal finance management system.
I would love to second that.
I'll second there.
Oh, Frank wants to second. It's even better.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Motion's-
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Great, thank you all so much.
Okay.
Fine, third, man.
The next, any other questions? The next software issue has been something we've discussed for on and off many months now, but now it's getting closer to the time we really should make a decision to move forward with a cloud-based document management system. We scanned all our files. This is the missing piece of that puzzle to make all those files, specifically the building department files, work efficiently with the municipal building software that we are currently working to integrate. I think, Ronnie, you're on a long call today on this subject, correct?
I'm sorry,
Were you on a long call today with Unicity?
a long call, it's not over an hour.
So I know she was on the call today. We've delayed this for a while, but we're getting to the critical junction point on getting this up and running so that when we have Unicity finally turned on for the building software, that these two systems will work well together. I was able to speak to Laserfish and I negotiated some small savings, but at least I saved us a couple of dollars on stuff. This is just a simple one pager. We compared using Laserfish, which seems to work incredibly well in Unicity, with the other candidate company called Cloud Papervision, which really does not integrate with Unicity. So it kind of handcuffed us looking for another supplier. The second candidate was cheaper, but if it doesn't integrate with our building software department to pull in all of our building files, it kind of doesn't make sense. It's almost like you have to use Excel separately from Word. You can't copy, cut, and paste things into each document. So that's kind of like the analogy I like to use. Before Mary Jo asks, yes, we can use ARPA funds for this. But this is the topic we've been talking about for months, actually. Did this start when you were still mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, we've
So that's been many months.
This goes back to the implementation of the Unicity system.
But I boiled this down to a one pager just so it's easier for everyone to read and just so we know what our pros and cons of really having these systems are.
There's another situation where we have the funding, it's kind of, almost a freebie to us. We've been talking about it for a long time.
Well, I'd like to say that it's a freebie to us for the upfront costs.
Yeah,
But this is going to be higher annual costs because we don't have a document management
Right,
system.
well, yeah, but we need to kind of get current with the times as far as how building departments are operating.
Of course.
It's.
I mean, a prime example, look what happened in Great Neck. About 6 months ago, 4 months ago, they had that big fire.
Yeah.
They lost almost all of their records. So
Yeah, it's.
we won't have any more paper records. We'll keep what we need to by state law, but at some point we will get rid of paper records. So we keep things off site, which we can start reducing, and we keep a lot of things here on site that we don't need to keep.
I also think that the time, right, this allows, again, for mobility, people on site, allows our residents to access the records, which they can't do now unless village hall is open and they come in, and right, they got to spend time. It's a lot of time for not only the residents, but the staff hours.
Well,
that
but
go
does this
into-
allow residents to view their records without a FOIL request?
So right now we can send them, we have the digitized records, so we can send a resident their building file, but it's not as easy to do because we have to go manually to look through.
But don't
the
they
system.
have to file a FOIL?
This can be used for FOILs.
Oh, you can do this with FOIL?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that's a very big use.
But you
And
don't
title
need
search as
to actually
well.
do a FOIL to get your records.
there's
right?
no-
Like if I'm going
No,
for a
if
building
it's your
permit.
home, correct, you
Yes.
don't need to FOIL.
Well, it depends on your municipality. Town of North Hempstead, you don't, but there are other villages where you have to file a FOIL request even if it's your own property, or you're an agent of the owner. So I guess it's up to individual villages.
Yeah, I mean, our
I mean,
policy is
Baxter
that if it's your
Estates-
property, there's no FOIL.
Baxter
If you wanna
Estates,
look
where
at your
they-
neighbor's file, you
yeah.
do have to complete.
Baxter Estates, you have to file a FOIL request even if it's your property. Everybody's different, so.
Just remember, when we go to this mobile building and code enforcement software system in the field with a tablet, building department or code enforcement with this integration can actually go in, look at appropriate files while they're doing inspections,
Yeah,
while they
absolutely.
need to do code enforcement to write up violations. It's pretty powerful. And
Well, Peter doesn't shop around, drawings and drawings and drawings.
in
He's,
theory, he does not need to do that.
Yeah,
We delayed this for a while, but we're at the point where we're getting to the finish line for Unicity. So in order for the two projects to meet at the finish line, I think we need to approve this now.
How
We've been
long
talking
will,
about this for a
yeah,
while.
I know. How long will it take to digitize all of our, that's included in this cost?
No, we've already digitized. That
Oh,
was
they're all
last,
done.
that was last
All right,
year's
we
big
did that,
project.
we're
Yeah,
all done. Oh.
but we just didn't have at the time,
couldn't
it
know
was
where to
thought,
put
at the time it was thought
Right, I
that
know where to put them.
we had erroneous information that the files would work with Unicity natively. And that was erroneous information. So now we need this engine so that the two systems work
The
together.
question was, why didn't Last year, as you recall, the question was, how come we didn't know this?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
did they not tell us? Did we not like, why didn't we know that, right? That was the holdup, I think.
Yeah.
That was the whole deal. And I wanted to see if we can get some better pricing from these guys,
Yeah, okay.
which we did.
$700.
So is Laserfish a municipality owned by the same company?
It's owned by General Code, which is
Okay.
owned by ICC.
Okay.
And they also put our code into Unicity as well, which is also very helpful.
The good thing, since they're all one company, it's one throat to choke. So if we have a problem with software A, they can't point a finger at software
Yeah.
B and say, hey, it's the other guy. No, it's all
And I'll go
them.
back to that's the situation we're in currently. It was a one-person shop where the person was probably close to retirement, and what will we do?
And if he's
So,
in Florida and the system doesn't
this-
work, we're out of luck.
Yeah, this,
Because it's happened.
this puts us in a better situation long-term too, so.
So I'll make the motion this time to enter into an agreement with Laserfish for the cloud enterprise system. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Randall, for negotiating that down.
Well, that was the man.
And
I'll give credit.
And I'll
where
take
it's
the
due.
thank you for making nice one pages that you and I like so much, so that it's easy to
This
read.
is, to me,
Yes,
very helpful.
this is exactly what we've been talking about. Last two items. I am reintroducing proposed local law A regulating signs in the right of way. We kind of introduced it last month, but I didn't want to have a public hearing this month just for one local law. I'm trying to save the village some money when it comes to stenographer and all the legal notices we have to do. So that's going to be at next month's public hearing. That would be February 6th. And the,
And Mayor?
yes, sir.
There's just one change in that came about
Oh.
based upon what trustee Janice had mentioned. If you see in the draft that's before you tonight, trustee Janice had asked, well, what about signs that people have for their address? The amendment would now allow for somebody to have a sign as long as it's only indicating their address for that property, but otherwise.
Good.
they couldn't.
Yes, I'm sorry. I ignored your comment last month.
That's
right?
good. No,
That's what we had Jeff here for, to
That's
keep me
okay.
honest.
That's why we keep them around.
So I keep him around.
Keep 'em on the payroll.
Do we need to make any kind of motion, hold a public hearing?
Well, I just have, one other question. Is that we did receive a telecommunications law that I don't know if you want to put that on for hearing, since you haven't really reviewed it yet, since we're having a public hearing, or just put it off for another month.
That would be all the comments we received from Ed Ross.
Yeah,
Yes, let's introduce that. I will send that out in the next couple of days. My apologies. I
okay.
didn't have time to review it yet. Just came in right at the end of the 2022. Yeah, Ed Ross did a really good job rewriting our telecommunications law. Like a lot of good upgrades. I haven't had time to synthesize the whole thing, but yes, let's make.
Okay,
So we need to make a
then
motion for that?
resolution to hold a public hearing on local laws A, B, and C for February 6th.
But I do need to discuss what local law B is going to be. I didn't get there.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
You jumped my gun. So local law B is really just removing one word willfully from our property maintenance code, and that has to do with the discharge of water from one property to another. What we're having is a lot of issues with uphill and downhill issues of neighbor A having all sorts of water being discharged down the hill to resident B. And unfortunately, because our code says willfully, it's a little difficult at times for us to send a notice of violation to resident A. And this would help the village deal with those kinds of issues, to help the resident who lives on property B, who's having all this water coming down on their property and doing various damages. So that would make life a lot easier for our code enforcer as well as our building superintendent to help these residents out.
So I guess just a question, Because this says property maintenance, so is it specific to water and like the example you just gave, Randall, or is it to the
Sprinklers?
entire property maintenance section?
This would cover the full property maintenance gamut under the code, and the idea would be that, for something, the idea is that if you're maintaining your property, to say that you can only be found in violation if you willfully fail to maintain your property, I would suggest doesn't fit with the intent of the code. The intent of the code is that people need to maintain their property in accordance with existing codes.
Yeah.
And you just need to maintain it. It's not that you should have an intent to violate the code. Maintain the property in accordance with existing regs. So that was where that came from. But the short answer is it covers the whole section as opposed to just, I think it's 171.5, just the water.
But the genesis for this primarily came from the whole water issue.
Yeah, I guess that's, as I review it, that's what I want to think about is there maybe another section that we're causing an unintended consequence? That's kind of why I wanted to understand the whole section.
No, Jeff thoroughly read this over, and yeah, just the one, it's interesting, it's one word, but changed the
Yeah.
whole thing on this.
Does that, I'm not familiar with the whole section. Does that just deal with ongoing maintenance, or does that also deal with what may be a historical issue? You know, because that water, you know, historically could go anywhere, and no one could do anything, and it just continues to get worse because of whatever reason. Because we have, you know, these crazy storms or whatever. So I'm just curious as to how you separate which may be just an inherent problem versus a problem that a neighbor has caused.
I don't think it matters where the water goes, you're bound to keep the water on your property. Under the code, it doesn't matter if it goes right or left or, backwards, you have to keep it on your property.
I understand that concept. I'm just saying
Yeah,
is
I don't
that
understand where you're going with that.
it's just for me, it's just an interesting problem because, you know, people don't really understand water. And, right? So, and you could be the greatest guy, you know, taking care of your property really well, and there still could be an ongoing problem. And what right does the neighbor have to, you know, against that?
So I'll give an example, I guess, of why I'm pausing that. And Gary's example, so you gave an example, Randall. I remember after that freak storm last year, you know, once in 100-year type storm, we got 10 inches of rain in a 24-hour period over Elder Fields and Boulder. All the mud and water ended up at the lowest point behind those houses in someone's pool. And there was nothing anyone could do to keep that water in place on those properties.
Yeah, well,
Right? Like nobody willfully created that situation. That was Mother Nature just coming in. So, you know, in that example,
That's where the discretion of the code enforcement come in.
But this really, actually, forget the 100-year storms. We have increasing issues within the village on regular rainstorms, where inordinate amount of water is going from property A to property B. And it's obviously something that property A has done, but we can't prove that they've willfully discharging the water there. They might have changed some topography, they might have done something with the retaining wall over time, they might have done something with their gutters.
Yep.
or it's just a natural, if you're on a hill, no matter how much you try to maintain your water on your property, if in a heavy rainstorm, there's just no way to do it.
But this isn't even on heavy. We're having instances where it's non-heavy storms, where there are residents who are suffering from water situations, and we need to help address it. And there's no way to address it with our code until we take the word willfully.
Well, I think it's the step in the right direction. I agree.
Yeah.
This just gets a slippery
There
slope.
is a
not
standard
cement.
in the ICC about like 2 inches of water or how many inches is, naturally occurring and what's beyond that.
Well, again, it's different municipalities have different rates
Yeah.
based on hourly rainfall. Yes.
But I also do want to clarify, consistent with what Ms. Shaskin was saying, is that certainly the village is going to require that people maintain a certain amount of inches per hour. So I don't disagree with what the deputy mayor said. If there was a 100-year storm that shows up and 5 properties are just draining downhill into their neighbors, it's very difficult for me to see that any type of action can be brought. You know, even taking willfully out, what you're saying is, well, was this a violation? No, they were maintaining their water the way that the code required. It's just you couldn't meet that amount. I mean, that was just a catastrophic amount of water that was dumped, and it exceeded the permissible amount. What this would cover is, you know, somebody say they go away for a month and the grass just grows, and they say, well, we didn't mean for the grass to grow, grass just grows. Well, we're not saying you're a person, we're not saying you did this with malicious intent, but the grass has to be maintained.
Okay.
That's the basis.
All right, well.
If I have any other questions, follow up.
Yeah, well, we have next month's board
Yep.
meeting. We'll have a formal public hearing on this.
I like it, robust.
So I will, I'll make a motion to have the public hearing for local law A, B, and C at the February 6th, 2023 board meeting at 7:30 PM. Do I have
Is there a second?
do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Trustee Dorfman? All in favor? Opposed, abstained? So moved.
Other thing is planning study. I've been working on a project with Brian for a while. I was hoping to be able to present it at this month's board meeting, but I'm not quite yet ready. So at next month's board meeting, I will bring up a subject of hiring an outside firm to do a planning study on some, we call it land use issues in the village?
Yes.
Thank you. I will give you a formal write-up on the subject well ahead of time so you can read it all and ask me any questions ahead of the board meeting, because it's kind of complex and it's a big project. So I'll get you that data pretty shortly so you can look it over. Anybody else have any other items to bring up?
Do you want to go into executive session to discuss the Rosslyn Fire contract?
Yes, recommendation by Jeff. We should go to executive session for this.
Yes.
All right, so
Motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Mark, a second?
I'll second.
Rich, if you could please kill the camera. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Objections? No?
Bye, Mr. Mitchell Schwartz.
Yeah, Mitchell.
How's your dad feeling? Better? Mitchell?